What's going on, guys? Welcome to another video, and in this video we're going to be discussing something I should have been talked about years ago, but I finally actually then built up the need to do it. And I wanted to break down the different campaigns in Resident Evil 6. Now I wanted to talk about this because I was one of the many people that end up pre-ordering the game, and to some extent I was disappointed with the gameplay experience, although I'm not going to trash the game and say it's just overall the worst game ever. But I will say there were a lot of things that this game could have done better, and I'm going to focus on just doing maybe a 4-part, maybe a 5-part video. But in this one, I'm going to be focusing specifically on Leon's campaign. Now, in Leon's campaign, Leon ends up teaming up with this woman named Helena Harper, and they end up trying to discover who is responsible for this outbreak in this small town. And of course, the plot progresses and things get a lot bigger. Now, one thing I will say that I did like about this campaign is the fact that it did have a survival horror element to it. In fact, it is the most focused on the survival horror element in the overall Resident Evil 6 game. There are narrow corridors, it's dark, it's gloomy, the subway, the church. There are just a lot of the cemetery. There's just a lot of great areas that the survival horror element does flourish, and it works. But I will state there are a lot of things about it that do hold it back. Like in overall game, one of the biggest issues was the fact that you could have like just unlimited ammo. You can have all of these awesome weapons and find ammo, and it gets to a point where you're playing a game and you're in God mode. There is literally no creature that can touch you because of the weapons and the ammo and stuff that you have access to. And I think they, again, if you're going to make it, this is a Resident Evil game, so it should be more focused on lack of ammo, as well as being more choicey with the weapons. And I could see it working had you could possibly play as like, 2 or 3 weapons. You know, bring back the whole suitcase where you can have like 2 or 3 weapons at a time. Bring that back, it would have worked a lot better, especially considering like the areas that you're in that make for a very really cool Resident Evil setting. Another issue that I didn't like in the game was the whole medieval underground part. Like, it's one part where you're in the church, I believe, and then you end up going underground, and like they got these skeletons there that are wearing like armor and stuff and wield axes, and I'm like, this is the 21st century. Why in the hell is this even here? Now I can understand if, you know, the virus got to the corpses down there, but it's still kind of it's really still kind of a stretch. And I thought that part was really ridiculous. It would be cool had it been implemented a lot better, but not with no knights and armors and all of that stupid trash. I did not like that at all. One other thing I would have liked to have seen in the game that would have helped, made it more tension filled, is the ability to get infected. Because you're fighting zombies, you're fighting all of these infected creatures and stuff, and it would have been nice if there was some punishment for them coming up on you and biting you and scratching you and stuff like that. It'd been nice to, if you have the antidote, or you have access to the antidote in certain parts of the story, but you're trying your best not to also get infected. That again would have given the zombies a little bit more of an advantage when in close encounters, and it would have worked a lot better for the character had they had to fear the ability of being infected. And I think that is one aspect of the Resident Evil games that they took out that I think they should just bring back in, because if you're fighting all these infected creatures, chances are at some point you might get infected. And if you get infected, it's either you take the antidote or it's game over. And I wish that in this particular game, especially considering the fact that you do explore this scientific facility, that you could have at least had access to some antivirus. And that would have made the game a little bit more immersive and a lot better too. Now, I do want to emphasize, I understand that Resident Evil can be linear at times, but it does have room for exploration. One of the biggest problems with Leon's campaign is it has awesome, and when I say awesome, it has some of the best settings for a Resident Evil game. Problem is, the game is so linear, you get literally no chance of exploring it. When you first start off, you're on this college campus. Awesome place to start off with that, and it's got so much room for like potential as far as trying to get through this college campus to try to survive. And I would have liked to have seen that area been opened up for players to just explore and stuff. Also, with this city one, which was perhaps the absolute best, you see the city breaking down as all these zombies are coming and creatures are attacking people and stuff. And it would have been just freaking awesome had just stuck in that one city and tried to survive this zombie apocalypse. Now, in Resident Evil 2, you see it after it happens. So in this game, it would have been so much better had they just made the central focus of Leon's campaign, perhaps coming from the college to the city, but also being able to explore the city. Maybe not have like the whole city accessible, fine, I can get that. But it could be a big section of the city that should be accessible, where you have to find ammo, you have to help survivors, you know, you have to try to get a means of getting out of there. You might have to try to get a means of trying to barricade yourself and stopping the undead, as well as all of these other creatures. One thing that they did introduce into the game, and especially in this one, is the new zombie types. Like they had the screamer ones that summon zombies in waves, or you had the big fat bloated ones that were really like strong and durable. Like that was something I could get behind, and I really liked that in the game. But it's just the way that they have these interesting and great settings, but they did absolutely nothing with it, and it was very unfortunate. Another thing, and this is what all the campaigns suffer from in this game, it was one of the main problems of the game, is the quick time events. There are just way too many quick time events that literally make no sense and have no reason to be in the game. When you're on a college campus, for example, and you end up getting into that car, it's a quick time event with you looking around trying to find the keys in the car. Like, why? I mean, I understand they're trying to make the game more immersive and more engaging, but for that literally was just stupid. It made absolutely no sense whatsoever. But they should have toned down a lot with the QTEs. Okay, Resident Evil 4 had some QTEs, and they did a great job with it. Resident Evil 5 had some QTEs. Some were unnecessary, but they did a pretty good job with it. But this game just riddled with QTEs, and it is painful. And I think possibly the last, one of the absolute worst characters I've ever seen in a Resident Evil game is the antagonist of this game, Derek Clifford Simmons, and he's supposed to be a part of this organization called the Family that are running everything, and kind of were in the background when all of these events of Resident Evils occurred. And he is absolutely just a flat cliche character. Look, I'm not one of those guys that likes just having the same characters regurgitated over and over and over and over and over, which is why I liked Helena, because she was a nice, good, cool character who was new and actually had her own skill sets and personality and backstory that helped contribute to the overall story of the game. And that's what I liked about Leon's campaign. Another aspect was her. But to bring an interesting good guy into the fray and try to have a bad guy that's less interesting and less immersive with less personality, and another thing I believe I had an issue with his character is the fact that he did not there was nothing to his character. Like I would have liked to seen more about him as well as the family. And I think this campaign did a lackluster effort when it came to explaining who they actually were, what kind of power they kind of wielded. You know, I would have liked to see more exposition of them. Perhaps them sitting down trying to figure out what they're going to do in the background, how they were initiating these attacks in certain areas. You know, how did they manipulate things? I would have liked to see some stuff on that. Maybe some footage on them. Maybe some notes on them. Maybe some recordings of them. But it would have been nice for Simmons and his so-called family to actually have a bit more spotlight to make them more interesting. And that's one reason I didn't like his character. Also, another reason I didn't like his character is because you had to keep fighting him. And the way that, and I don't mind having to keep fighting a certain villain, because in some Resident Evil games, you have to fight a certain BOW several times. But it's kind of the way his character kept evolving. You fight him on a train. You fight him. Excuse me. And you fight him as a like in this little area as a dinosaur. Then you turn around and fight him as a big fly. Because every time you fight him, he evolves. And as for interesting as those fights were, I would have liked those fights to have been like separate BOWs. And that would have made a lot more sense to me, instead of it being this one character who kept just evolving and evolving and evolving and evolving and evolving. And it just felt really repetitive, especially when it seems like as cool. I mean, honestly, the character was interesting, but just not like likable. It was just like a wasted character, and it would have been awesome had there been a lot more to him. But as I've said, like I would have liked a bit more backstory when it came to his character, as well as the family and their mechanizations behind everything, and possibly some throwbacks to he hired Wesker, or bring back some of the original cast through their dialogue and see how they were manipulating events throughout all of the video games. It would have worked out a lot better when it came to that, as well as not having to fight them multiple times. I mean, I can understand if he had access to BOWs and he was just throwing them out there trying to stop these two cats. I'm all for it. But to have him specifically come back like 3 or 4 times, and which I wouldn't mind is so bad, but it was like the game solely focused on him being these bosses. And also, I think another problem is kind of like the way the boss fights kind of went, because the T-Rex, when you kind of on foot, then you're on the back of this Jeep thing. So what was it? You fight him as a dog thing on the train. You fight him as a T-Rex in the little arena, I think. Then you fight him again as a dog thing on the catwalk. And then you fight him as a bug. So it just kept dragging on. But I will say, if this campaign would have focused more on the survival horror elements, if it would have gave you the lack of ammo, the more choicier bits with your guns, perhaps had you had like 2 or 3 guns to play with throughout the game, it would have made the open world more accessible, and just actually focus on the survival horror elements, Leon's campaign would have been gold and would have been a great throwback to the original games. There's one part, I believe. Yeah, there's one part where there's explosion of the gas, and they're trying to beat the gas. They're trying to outrun the gas because it's infecting people. Like, that right there is another just awesome scenario that would have worked to make this like they had to perhaps go underground because the whole this section of the city was infected. They had to go underground to get away from the gas. That would have been cool, but Resident Evil 6, it just could have been overall better game. But as I said, even though there are some things I didn't like about this campaign, I have been pointing out the things that I did. So I guess in the comment section below, guys, let me know, what did you think about the Resident Evil 6 Leon's campaign? Did you agree with any of my points? Are there any points that you would like to present it yourself? Leave them in the comment section below. Also, hit that like, share, subscribe, and notification button to get the best of what's going on here on this channel. And this is NarikChase signing out, and I'll see you on the next Resident Evil critique video, I guess. Peace out.